テスト。みはるちゃんだ。はじめまして、かわいいですね。ありがとう。
Your new space program, leaping forward into the cosmos. Since the dawn of Kerbal Kind, we have looked to the sky and wondered what sublime mysteries lie hidden in the darkness, like jewels never beheld. These untold treasures may soon reveal themselves due to the efforts of recently founded Kerbal Space.
Oh my! I think that might have been the only copy of the orientation film. Hold on! Slides, somewhere. Welcome to your first day running the Kerbal Space Program. This campus hosts the greatest ever gathering of astronomers, astronauts, and engineers. After years of focused effort, this collection of geniuses has created several very impressive buildings. We believe we have all the necessary pieces to take our first steps off the ground. The best way to advance our technologies further is to get up there and learn by doing. All we need now is somebody to show us how to put all these parts together. Well, we also need somebody to help us out with the flying. We need a lot of help, actually. That's why you're here. My name is Paige, by the way. If you need any hints, feel free to visit me over at the training center. Everything in there is well padded, so it's a great place to get up and running. Welcome aboard! Space is the place. So you want to get to space. Have you tried rockets? Rockets use fuel and engines to create thrust, which propels them forward. When a fuel tank is empty, it is dropped to stay as lightweight as possible, allowing the rocket to go even faster. These tanks, as well as other expendable parts of a rocket, are called stages. Different stages do different things. Often the first stage is very powerful, with just enough fuel to get the vehicle through the atmosphere. The second stage usually has a low-thrust engine that, while not as powerful, is more fuel efficient. After dropping the heavier first stage and leaving the atmosphere, the second stage engine pushes the much lighter second stage to orbital speed. On a flight to space, the final stage parachutes back down to the surface, ideally in one piece. Welcome to the launch pad. As you embark on your journey into rocketry, it's important to get all the crashing out of your system here in the simulator. It really cuts down on the awkward phone calls. Today, you'll be launching into the virtual skies over KSC, where let's learn how to rotate the flight camera. That way, you can see the launch. Great! You can also zoom the camera in and out. Nice! Go ahead and pick your favorite view for this launch. Your rocket is ready for launch. Every good launch starts with a big green button and lots of fire. Most bad launches do too, actually. Looking good! Ascend to 1,000 meters, and then we'll learn some controls. Okay, you're a kilometer up. You can still crash, but you'll have more time to correct your course if you start pointing at the ground. When flying a rocket or a plane, we have specific terms for moving. Pitch tilts your rocket's nose. Nice pitch. Now pitch up until you're flying straight up. Let's move on. Yaw steers your rocket left and right. Try it now. Now yaw to the left to straighten up. Excellent. Now for the final control. Roll, rotate. That's the basics of rocket flight. Feel free to experiment with the controls. You can move on when you're ready. So you want to get to space. It's time to make a rocket. A simple rocket requires 4 crucial components: a command module, fuel tank, engine, and parachute. Let's start by learning.
Arigato.
A command module allows us to control our vessel. As long as there is at least one command module on board, our rocket will be operational. This rocket will use a command pod, which can be manned by a Kerbal and is located in the pods category. For this lesson, we're going to make a small rocket, so we need a small command pod. Let's add this one. Great! It doesn't look like much, but it's a promising start. Then how about that one? Rocketry Weekly calls it good enough. How exciting. Notice the part is once again attached to your cursor. Now that's beginning to look like a rocket. Well, almost. To break free of Kerbin's soupy atmosphere, we want either a launcher or sustainer engine. Now let's add the sustainer engine to the fuel tank. Excellent! Our rocket is looking pretty great. We just need one. Our one Kerbal rocket doesn't weigh much. Now all we need to do. Congratulations! You've just built a rocket. Are you sure you haven't done this before? As you start to build rockets, you'll want to see your designs from other angles. Let's learn how to make.
とりあえずチュートリアルを進めて月に行きたい。
First, let's rotate the camera. Nice! Now let's zoom the camera. Great! Now let's pan the camera up. You can also focus your camera at a specific part. If you want to view your rocket from the top, front, or sides, switch to blueprint mode. You can change the camera's direction if you ever get lost in the VAB. You can always reset the camera. Nice. Now you can get at those hard-to-reach parts of your rocket. Your rocket's ready. Let's take it out for a little hop. Let's move this rocket to a launch pad. Welcome to the launch pad. Today, you'll be flying straight up. Your rocket should do fine without any steering inputs, but if things get out of line somehow, feel free to intervene. You've cleared the launch tower and your flight is underway. Let's learn about staging. Rockets are constructed in sections called stages. Each stage is designed for a different... On your right, you'll find the staging stack. It displays all of the functions. Each stage's fuel supply is shown on a bar next to the stage. Your active stage, stage 1, still has a little fuel in it. When it goes dry, your first stage is out of fuel, and all it is doing is slowing you down. To drop that weight, you're going to activate your next. Ready? Hit go to lose that mass. Congratulations! You're nearly to space, and your next set of fuel tanks activate the next stage to Your capsule will now continue coasting up. All that's left to do is gaze back down at Kerbin and wonder if you remembered to lock your car. Nice work! Your capsule has a lot of momentum. If you're curious how high up you are, take a look at your altimeter. You're so high that you can see the curve of the horizon. Rocketry involves a lot of waiting between the cool explosions. Check out your altimeter. See how quickly those numbers are rising? Let's ride the rest of the way up and fast forward. You're about to start falling back down. Let's slow down and enjoy the view. Great job. You're now a master of time. Try not to use this new power for evil. What goes up must come down. Wind resistance will slow down your capsule's descent. But not if you deploy your parachute too early, it'll be torn off. If you deploy it too late, okay, you're low enough to activate the final. Hit go to pop your chute. Nice work! The parachute will trail your capsule for a bit without fully opening. Your parachute is now fully deployed and slowing the capsule to a safe velocity. Congratulations! If this were real... What goes up must come down. If you deploy your parachute... Okay, you're hit go to pop your chute. Nice work! The parachute will trail your capsule for a bit without fully opening. Once you've slowed down enough, it'll open all the way by itself. Your parachute is now fully deployed and slowing the capsule to a safe... Missing the ground. If you want to visit space for more than a couple of minutes, you'll need to get to orbit. An object is in orbit when it's moving sideways so quickly that even as gravity causes it to fall, it keeps missing the ground. As long as that object isn't slowed down by anything, it follows the same path every time it goes around the body it's orbiting, forever. If that object is a Kerbal, it is recommended that they bring lots of snacks. So since your goal is to move horizontally at a high speed, why not launch sideways? On Kerbin, the atmosphere is like a thick soup. You waste a lot of fuel trying to fly through it horizontally. By launching vertically, you cut through the thickest part of the atmosphere as quick as possible. Most orbital rockets begin tilting toward the horizon soon after they leave the launch pad. This maneuver, called a gravity turn, uses the planet's gravity to turn the ship and reduces the amount of fuel needed to achieve a stable orbit. When launching near the equator, your gravity turns should point toward the east, since your vehicle gets a free boost from the planet's rotation. Thanks, planet! Once a vehicle is moving quickly enough that its arc will take it above the atmosphere, it shuts down its engines and coasts to space. Once it nears the top of that arc, the vehicle needs to fire its engines a second time to keep itself from falling back down to the planet. Doing this turns that arc into a nice big circle. Congratulations! You've missed the ground. When you're making a rocket, it's often easiest to work top to bottom, tailoring each stage to carry the weight of everything above it. To give you a head start, anytime we intend to drop an empty stage after using all of its fuel, add that decoupler. We need to attach a larger, more powerful lower stage to the bottom of your rocket. To keep things simple, out in the real world, this list would show all of your saved workspaces. Here in the simulator, now that the lower stage has been merged into your current workspace, you can see it next to the upper stage. Perfect! Merging is a very powerful tool. Anytime you want to reuse a particular booster, lander, or other element from an space rockets sometimes need an extra boost. In a rare case of rocket scientists naming something well, these additional rocket engines are called boosters. Boosters will start by attaching 4 radial decouplers that will eject the spent boosters when they're empty. To make sure that these decouplers are evenly spaced and aligned with one another, you'll be using the symmetry tool. Great! Now when you place a part on one side of your rocket, 3 more evenly spaced duplicates will appear around the rocket. Go ahead and add 4 radial decouplers. Perfect! Now you've got 4 radial decouplers exactly where they need to be. Let's attach those solid fuel boosters. Since you're still in 4x symmetry mode, simply attach this booster to one of the... Great job! You've finished your orbital rocket. You can symmetrically place up to 8 parts at once. A feat that... Before you launch a rocket, you need to plan the order of your staging events. Nobody wants... The staging order begins at the bottom of the staging stack. You want your boosters and main engine to fire together for maximum thrust. The solid fuel boosters are currently in the second stage. If we don't change anything, the boosters will ignite late and detach themselves at the same time. This would be embarrassing for everybody, so let's move the boosters down to stage 1. Your solid fuel boosters burn very hard and very fast, so they will run out of fuel first. Even though your main engine and boosters will activate at the same time, you want to drop the empty boosters before you drop your main engine. Now move all 4 radial decouplers from stage 4 to your new stage 2. All done. Your remaining stages are set up so that stage 4 will activate your orbital stage's engine. Stage 5 will detach the orbital stage's fuel tank when it's empty. All right, we're ready to light this candle. In this flight, you're going all the way to orbit. I'll walk you through the process of launching, executing a gravity turn to get moving sideways, coasting to orbital altitude, and doing a final burn at the top of your arc to establish a stable orbit. Before we begin, let's talk about the nav ball. The nav ball shows your vehicle's orientation relative to the horizon. The blue half of the ball represents the sky, and the brown half represents the ground. The level indicator at the center shows your vehicle's orientation. When you turn, the ball turns. When you roll, the ball rolls. Assuming you want your rocket pointed at the sky, you'll want to see lots of blue on the nav ball. If you get confused, remember this rhyme. If the nav ball's brown, you're going down. At launch, you want all your engines at maximum thrust, which means you need to set your throttle at 100%. Your solid fuel boosters are way ahead of you on this. You can see your main throttle here. Left shift, your fuel levels are visible within the staging stack. Right now, you can see that your main engine and 4 boosters are all topped off. All right, the solid fuel boosters are empty. Let's drop them.
バグってる。
Before we begin, let's talk about the nav ball. The nav ball, at launch, you can see your fuel levels are visible within the staging stack. Right now, you can see that your main engine and 4 boosters are all topped off and ready to rumble. It's time to go. At the start, all you need to do is fly straight up. It's time to start your gravity turn. First, we need to get to 10,000 meters. You're going to yaw towards the east so that the target marker is in the center of the nav ball. Your vessel and nav ball should look like this example video if you're performing the gravity turn correctly. Way to make Kerbin's gravity work for you. You're now on track to establish an orbit. Your current stage's fuel is empty. Let's drop it and activate your deep space engine. Great job! Your rocket is on its way to orbit. As you gain experience, you can make your gravity turns more efficient by starting to tilt your rocket soon after liftoff. Adjusting course with a series of small corrections instead of one big one will leave you with a lot more fuel when you get to orbit. Turning immediately after launch requires a very stable rocket. So if you ever have trouble keeping the pointy end up, you can try the simplified wait and turn method we use today. Right now, we're on a ballistic trajectory. If no further adjustments are made, your rocket will eventually fall back down to the ground. When planning and executing orbital maneuvers, you'll want to switch to map view, where you can see the blue arc passing through your vehicle is its current trajectory, the path your rocket will follow if you don't touch the controls anymore. Our goal is to make that arc into a circular orbit. After you've coasted nearly to the top of this arc, you're going to point forward, and then you're going to ignite your engine. If you time this burn right, you'll never quite get to the top of the arc, as it'll keep widening in front of you until it wraps all the way around the planet. Let's break that down a little more. The top of your arc has a helpful tag in map view. It's called the apoapsis, abbreviated as AP. You're going to max out. We're paused at just before the apoapsis. We want to go faster in the direction we're already moving, so we need to make sure our rocket is pointed forward. You're all lined up and ready to go. The next step is to go max throttle. It can take time for your arc to fully expand into an orbit. If you look closely at where your trajectory meets the ground, you'll see it moving toward the horizon. Once your trajectory reaches all the way around the planet, you'll see another marker on your orbit. This is the periapsis, or PE, the lowest point in your orbit. It'll always live on the opposite side of your orbit from the apoapsis, or highest point. By burning prograde near your apoapsis, you increase the altitude of your periapsis, the lowest point on your orbit. Here's the most important thing to remember about setting up an orbit above an atmosphere. Your periapsis must be higher than the atmosphere, or your rocket will start to slow down every time it dips into the upper atmosphere. On Kerbin, that means every part of your orbit must be higher than 70 kilometers. Keep your eye on your trajectory for now, and Okay, your orbit is fully out of the atmosphere. Cut the throttle. You did it! You're in orbit! This is when I'd usually tell you to look under your seat in the simulator, where you'd find a delicious celebratory treat. Sadly, since the vending machine in the astrodynamics lab broke down, it has gotten very difficult to hide snacks anywhere at KSC. Feel free to take a moment to admire your first orbit. In a way, you've given yourself a mind snack, which... Orbits are weird. Remember your orbiting baseball? What if you wanted to make its orbit higher? Well, it's a baseball, so grab your bat and try to hit the ball to a higher orbit. Your first thought might be to try to deflect the ball upwards. Unfortunately, hitting the ball upward bends its orbit so that it hits the ground before it can return to you. What you need to do is hit the ball in the direction it's already moving, adding to its already high velocity. Now that you've sped the ball up, why isn't it flying any higher? It just keeps whizzing by at the same height it always did. After all, I said that making it go faster would make it go higher. What gives? The ball is actually going higher, but it's going higher on the opposite side of the planet from where you're standing. You've raised its orbit, and you've learned the first lesson of orbital maneuvering. Your actions affect the opposite side of your orbit. Weird, huh? So your ball is moving faster, but it's still passing you at the same height. How do you get its orbit higher on this side of the planet? Now that you know how changes in velocity affect the other side of your orbit, you've got all you need. By adding velocity to the ball at the highest point in its orbit, you raise the lowest point in its orbit and make it circular again. An equatorial orbit is good, but if you want to travel beyond Kerbin, you will need to manipulate your orbit. Let's start with something simple, expanding an orbit. Remember how you circularized your orbit by increasing your forward velocity? To raise your orbit, you'll just do more of the same. It's time to burn prograde. Now that we're pointed the right way, we can increase the throttle and watch our orbit expand. Ooh, cut the throttle. If you overdo it, you'll leave Kerbin's orbit entire. Nice. That maneuver raised our orbit on the other side of Kerbin, so we will enter high orbit there. Like I said earlier, the highest point of our orbit is called the apoapsis. The lowest point of our orbit is known as the periapsis. By default, your camera is focused on your vessel, so if you can't see either of these points, scroll the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Double-click an object to center your camera on it. Click the middle mouse button to enter FreeCam. Press Home to reset the camera to your active vessel. Excellent! You can time warp to any position on your trajectory by selecting a point on your vehicle's current path, and then selecting Time Warp to Point. Now you're way up in the sky, so high that if you circularize your orbit now, you'll be in high orbit. Wow, the black starry void looks so small from here. From command pods to space probe cores, a lot of critical rocket parts use electric charge. You'll want to design your Most rocket engines generate electric charge while active, but we'll still need a way to keep our batteries full while coasting between maneuvers. Solar panels convert Kerbal's light into EC for our rockets. Small solar panels can just be placed, but large solar panels are delicate and must only be deployed once we're out of the atmosphere. I've equipped this rocket with 2 deployable solar panels. Here's a hand crank. Get to work. Just kidding. There's a handy button that opens all of them with a single click. Give it a try. Great. The solar panels are now extended. Light-tracking solar panels only rotate on one axis, so we may need to reorient our ship to point them fully at the sun. Let's make... Excellent. The solar panels are soaking up all of those sweet photons and giving our rockets some much-needed EC. You can see the status of any solar panel within the Part Manager in the Electrical Parts menu. You can either access the app directly by clicking the app button, or you can right-click a part to directly access it in the Part Manager. Getting EC is one thing, and storing it is another. Most command pods have a small battery, but many missions will call for additional EC storage. When we're traveling far from the sun or going to the dark side of a planet, more batteries means more peace of mind. At some point, the crew will run out of snacks. Did you know a Kerbal is 99.9% more likely to crash when hungry? That's when it's time to head back down to Kerbin, a planet known for its plentiful snack options. First, let's get a better view for this operation. Remember how we burned prograde to raise our orbit? To lower our orbit, we burn in the opposite direction, retrograde. SAS can now flip retrograde. All right, the rocket is aligned to retrograde. As we decelerate, watch what's happening to our periapsis. Once it enters the atmosphere, this rocket is on a path back to the ground. Don't ease off the throttle yet, though. We're gonna keep burning until our trajectory intercepts the ground. This should give us a good idea. That's it. Let's stop our burn. Now that we're on a collision course with Kerbin, we need to turn that collision into something more survivable. This process of crashing without dying is called landing. Our upcoming stage will activate a decoupler, dropping the engine and exposing a very important... Great! We're on our way down and our heat shield is exposed. Have you ever wondered what a marshmallow feels like when it catches on fire? You're about to find out. At some point, the crew will run out of snacks. Did you know a Kerbal is 99.9% more likely to crash when hungry? Orbital transfers. As you know, the faster you go, the higher your orbit gets. If you get moving fast enough, your orbit may cross the orbit of some other object, like a moon or a planet. The closest celestial body to Kerbin is the Mun. If you're looking for somewhere else to fly a rocket, the Mun is a good choice. The real trick to getting there is timing your departure so that the Mun captures your vehicle at its highest point. If you mistime your departure, you may miss the Mun entirely, which creates a lot of paperwork. Let's assume you've left at the right time and the Mun is there to meet you. As your vessel approaches the Mun, it enters a zone in which the Mun's gravitational influence on your orbit is stronger than Kerbin's. This zone is called the Mun's sphere of influence. You've had to go very quickly to escape Kerbin's gravity, much too fast for the Mun's low gravity to capture you. If you don't slow down, your vehicle will speed past the Mun and be flung farther into space. Remember what I said about paperwork? Once you're in the Mun's gravity well, the best way to slow down is to fire your engines backwards until your trajectory becomes a nice, stable orbit. Now you're immune of the Mun! Ha! Our rocket is in orbit over Kerbin and ready to fly. The mission today is to, drumroll please, intercept and orbit the Mun. To be captured by the Mun's gravity, our vessel must cross into the Mun's sphere of influence, or SOI, the zone in which its gravity is stronger than any other celestial body around it. We're going to create a maneuver plan to fit. Great! Now here's a new trick. We can select any object as a target in map view. Targeting gives us useful information and enables new tools. Once we've targeted, right now our camera is following our vessel as it orbits Kerbin. Let's adjust our camera until we can see the Mun. Then right-click to target. We want to place this maneuver plan with two things in mind. First, the Mun is in motion. We can't aim our spacecraft where the Mun is right now. Instead, we have to aim where the Mun will be after our vehicle has coasted all the way from Kerbin. Second, remember how increasing velocity raises the opposite side of our orbit? Since we're placing this maneuver plan where we intend to start our burn, we should place it on the opposite side of Kerbin from where we intend to intercept the Mun. Placing a maneuver plan usually involves making a best guess, and then fiddling with the maneuver until you get an intercept. Fortunately, you've got a crack navigator with you today. Excellent! We've just created a maneuver plan. While we could find out if our departure timing is correct by just picking a direction and maxing the throttle, a maneuver plan tells us in advance how much delta V we'll need, how long we'll need to burn, and in what direction our vessel will need to point during the maneuver. Nice! That maneuver event towards the end of your trajectory is exactly what we're looking for. If a maneuver looks right, but we're not getting the intercept we expect, we can change the starting position of the maneuver by grabbing and dragging the middle of the maneuver plan along our orbit. It's very common to refine a maneuver plan by adjusting both the position of the... If we don't want to maneuver at all, we can delete the plan, either by right-clicking the gizmo and selecting delete, or through the burn. Maneuvers are invaluable when leaving Kerbin. Feel free to come back and practice anytime. Our rocket is... We're going to create a... Great! Right now, our camera is following our vessel as it orbits Kerbin. Let's adjust our camera and... We want to... Second, replacing a maneuver plan usually involves making a best guess, and then fit... Excellent! Grab and pull the arrows to plan a burn along that direction. This maneuver is pretty simple. We want to burn prograde and expand our orbit. Nice! That maneuver event towards the end of your trajectory. If a maneuver looks right, if we don't want to... Maneuvers are invaluable when leaving Kerbin. Feel free to come back and practice anytime. We've got a maneuver plan that intercepts the Mun. Now we just need to execute that maneuver and fly to the Mun ourselves. Whenever we have a maneuver plan, a burn timer will appear. The timer shows you how much time is left until we need to execute the maneuver. I've paused this. The timer also tells us how long we'll need to burn our engines at 100% throttle in order to complete the maneuver. Now let's take a look at the nav ball. A new marker has joined our old prograde and retrograde markers. This is called a maneuver marker, and it shows us the orientation of our planned maneuver. We'll want to make sure that this marker is in the center of our nav ball during... Now your vehicle is properly oriented. And through the magic of SAS and more math than I'd like to admit, our vessel is properly oriented. We're still far from our planned burn, so let's speed things up. While we could rely on our reflexes to time warp at the perfect moment, a less stressful alternative is warping to a specific point in our orbit. See this button? Select it to warp automatically to the moment before our maneuver begins. Departure burn, here we come. Great! We've exited just before our maneuver burn, and I've paused the simulation once more. After we select Continue, remember to wait until the countdown reaches 0. Then, okay, get ready to hit the throttle. Watch the burn timer. We want to stop our burn once it reaches 0. Everything. Great work! You've successfully executed a maneuver, and now we're on our way to the Mun. It's going to take a while to reach the Mun, but don't let the wait fool you. We're now moving faster than any Kerbal has ever flown before. To orbit the Mun, we'll need to burn retrograde once we're inside its SOI, or Sphere of Influence. This will slow us down enough to keep us from being whipped into interplanetary space. Let's start by time warping until we're within the Mun's Sphere of Influence. That's the sphere within which the Mun is the primary gravitational influence on your vehicle. Farewell, Kerbin! We'll miss you! Welcome to the Mun's Sphere of Influence. Let's slow down to normal time so we can create our capture. Did you notice that we've got a periapsis above the Mun, but no apoapsis? That's because we're going too fast to complete an orbit before sailing past the Mun. Don't worry, we have time to adjust. Our objective is to slow down enough so that both apoapsis and periapsis are within the Mun's Sphere of Influence. Remember the rule of orbital opposites. Because we want to lower your apoapsis, we'll need to place our maneuver plan at the periapsis. Let's get started. In order to reduce our apoapsis, we need to slow down by burning backwards, or retrograde. This is a little like deorbiting over Kerbin, but we're going to stop burning before our trajectory meets Mun dust. Maneuver plan set. Next up, let's make sure we're pointed where we need to be. If the maneuver is right, and we're pointed in the right direction, now we need to time warp to the right position. And we're on our way. Almost there. When the countdown reaches 0, throttle up to start your capture burn.
一瞬見せる気合入った顔が良い。
Throttle up now. Keep burning until the burn timer reaches 0. Shut the engines now. We have an orbit. Fantastic. That was some fancy flying. Looks to me like you're about ready to try this for real.
果たして月に行けるでしょうか。 度計も速度計もきれいにまとまってる。ジェットソン。親お顔が新しくなってるわ。ムンの重力圏入る表示がワープホールと間違えました。そういえば誕生日おめでとうございます。 ありがとうございます。
アロハエダー。
うわー、綺麗。この重力表現は分かりやすくていいと思う。前の線だと突然進路が変わったように見えて全然わからなかったんです。 おいな。着陸できるかな。足どこ？あそこなんですね。大丈夫かな。 よしよし。着陸が優しい。着陸よし。オッケー。やりました。ワーツキの石。ウサギは月へ。なんでこんな斜めにドアが。
おいな。
狭そう。 結構余裕でいけましたね。調整できる範囲すご。 最後に飛行機作って終わりにします。 はい、それではご視聴ありがとうございました。にはるさんお疲れ様でした。かわいい。お疲れ様でした。お疲れちゃんぐ。お疲れ様でした。おつには。お疲れ様でした。お疲れ様でした。みんな見てくれてありがとうでした。お疲れ様でした。バイバイ。